So I just had what I thought was a good idea, which was to mix Red Bull and coffee together. And it turns out that's actually disgusting. Um, so welcome back. My name is Dre, and this is the Breeze Podcast. Today's episode is going to be another quickie that focuses on one of the Little Rock Nine. Her name is Elizabeth Eckford. If you didn't know, the Little Rock Nine were the first black students to integrate schools in the Little Rock district of Arkansas. They were met with violence, death threats, and constant harassment. Elizabeth's first day of treatment was captured in a Pulitzer Prize winning photo. Here is her story. Elizabeth Eckford was born on October 4th, 1941, to Oscar and Bertie Eckford, and is one of six children. Her mother worked at the school for the deaf and blind, and her father worked nights as a dining car maintenance worker for the Missouri Pacific Railroad's Little Rock Station. Just to back it up a little bit, on May 17th, 1954, the Supreme Court rules separate but equal is unconstitutional in Brown versus Board of Education. Elizabeth was 13 years old. Okay, phone. The Little Rock School Board took 3 years to enroll only a token number of blacks in one school, Little Rock Central High School, the most prestigious in the state. Numerous articles state that the administrators look for black students strong enough to survive the ordeal, but placid enough not to make trouble. In modern times, the correct word would be victims. 9 black students were chosen. The student population of Little Rock High is around 2,000. That made the black students that were selected less than half of 1% of the student population. Elizabeth Eckford was one of those 9 students. On the night of September 1st, 1957, Governor Orville Faubus, what a stupid name, stationed the Arkansas National Guard around Central, ostensibly to prevent violence, but really to keep the black students out. On September 3rd, a federal judge ordered that desegregation proceed, and late that night, the director of the Arkansas chapter of the NAACP, Daisy Bates, instructed the black parents to bring their children to her home the following morning. The Eckfords didn't have a telephone, so they never got that call. On September 4th, 1957, Elizabeth Eckford arrived at Central High School alone. A mob was waiting for her. We've all seen the famous photo taken by photojournalist Will Rounds, depicting a young Elizabeth walking with her school books as a mob of white racists scream at her. They were screaming chants such as 2468, we ain't gonna integrate, no nigger bitch is going to get in our school, get out of here, and lynch her, lynch her. Hazel Bryan was the opposite to Elizabeth's piece. She is the young woman that appears most angry and vicious in the famous picture, and ironically, she and Elizabeth become close friends for many years. The mob did not allow the 9 black students into the schools for weeks. Eventually, President Eisenhower sent federal troops to enforce segregation, making the statement,
They, like the rest of our nation, have proved in 2 great wars their readiness to sacrifice for America. And the foundation of the American way of life is our national respect for law. In the South as elsewhere, citizens are keenly aware of the tremendous disservice that has been done to the people of Arkansas in the eyes of the nation, and that has been done to the nation in the eyes of the world. At a time when we face grave situations abroad because of the hatred that communism bears toward a system of government based on human rights, it would be difficult to exaggerate the harm that is being done to the prestige and influence, and indeed to the safety of our nation and the world. Our enemies are gloating over this incident and using it everywhere to misrepresent our whole nation. We are portrayed as a violator of those standards of conduct which the peoples of the world united to proclaim in the Charter of the United Nations. There they affirmed faith in fundamental human rights and in the dignity and worth of the human person. And they did so without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion.
What's most disturbing about Eisenhower's statement is that he's not promoting integration or even encouraging racists to treat people with respect. He's essentially saying treating black people poorly makes us look bad to the communists. It's purely so America can continue their self righteous Cold War. It's a statement so devoid of humanity, but it exemplifies why many of us still don't think Trump can qualify as the worst president. Eisenhower's statement is why we have to say Black Lives Matter, because it's clear that politicians only care about us if the communists in Uzbekistan complain. The Little Rock Nine's first day of full classes was September 25th, 1957. The Little Rock Nine spends a few months in classes in which they are endlessly tormented by segregationists and young racists. I discovered the disciplinary file that was created to document Elizabeth's experiences. October 28th, Elizabeth was shoved in a hall. November 20th, Elizabeth jostled in gym. November 21st, Elizabeth was hit with a paperclip. December 10th, Elizabeth was kicked. December 18th, Elizabeth punched. January 10th, Elizabeth shoved down the stairs. January 14th, Elizabeth was knocked out flat. January 22nd, Elizabeth was spat upon. January 29th, Elizabeth was attacked by spitballs. January 31st, Elizabeth asked grandfather to take her home after girls serenade her with humiliating songs in gym class. February 4th, Elizabeth has a soda bottle thrown at her. February 14th, Elizabeth was attacked with rock-filled snowballs. March 7th, Elizabeth was hit by an egg. March 12th, Elizabeth hit by a tomato. And these were only a few of the recorded incidences. So our governor, Faubus, with a stupid name, was so upset about integration that he closed all public schools the following year. Here is a clip of his statement justifying his decision. And this is going to be spoken by yours truly. Last year, I stated during the September crisis that I was not elected governor of Arkansas to surrender all of our rights as citizens to an all-powerful federal autocracy. It is my responsibility and it is my purpose and determination to defend the constitutional rights of the people of Arkansas to the full extent of my ability. I am fully aware of the deep concern of the parents for the continued proper education of their children, and I am fully aware of the inconvenience to the students in the interruption of the proper educational process. To them, both parents and students, I express my sympathy and understanding. The Supreme Court shut its eyes to all the facts and, in essence, said integration at any price, even if it means the destruction of our school system, our educational processes, and the risk of disorder and violence that could result in the loss of life, perhaps yours. So, this wasn't the entire speech that he made. This was just what I thought stood out the most. And let's first establish that Faubus is a conservative and a segregationist. So segregation is a fundamentally conservative idea. And it's very interesting how he changes the discussion from allowing black kids to receive an equal education, because that's what Brown versus Board did. It said basically this separate but equal bullshit is not equal because black students aren't getting nearly the same level of education as white students. So Faubus decides to change that discussion from allowing black kids to receive an equal education and turns it into a states' right argument. So, states' rights. Where have we heard states' rights before? Oh, yeah, with slavery and currently with abortion. So, it's a conservative idea that never seems to die. The idea is that people, states, and/or businesses should have the ability to discriminate against people based on race. They believe that right is constitutionally protected, and when the federal government says that they can't do that, it is somehow restricting their God given freedoms. Faubus's entire argument is not that segregation is morally or ethically acceptable, but that somehow the federal government should not be in the business of protecting or helping black people. especially when it inconveniences white people. He even apologizes to the white students for the inconvenience, as if they're the ones that have the mobs being, set after them. His argument is a deplorable argument, yet we still have conservatives currently screaming that they're being censored by the federal government because they're not allowed to be violent bigots on Twitter and Facebook. After this whole debacle, Governor Faubus was reelected twice as governor of Arkansas. Like all the others of the Little Rock Nine, Elizabeth would flee the South, moving in the summer of 1959 to St. Louis. There she got the remaining credits for high school, and there she made the first of several suicide attempts with over-the-counter sleeping pills. She then continued her education, enrolling first at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, then at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. Again, she tried killing herself, though in different ways. Hitchhiking far from campus, for instance, half hoping someone would pick her up and murder her. She was accepted by Knox College in Illinois, but soon returned to Little Rock to be closer to her parents. She also attended Central State University and has a bachelor's in history. Eckford served in the U.S. Army for 5 years, serving for her first 2 as a pay clerk, and then, upon reenlisting, worked as an information specialist and wrote for Fort McClellan, Alabama, and Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana newspapers. Eckford has held various jobs throughout her life. She has been a waitress, history teacher, welfare worker, unemployment and employment interviewer, and a military reporter. One of her children unfortunately committed death by suicide with a cop, and honestly, that's something that really shouldn't even be a thing. She currently works as a probation officer in Little Rock, and she continues to live in the house that she was raised in. Eckford was awarded the prestigious Spingard Medal by the NAACP, as were the rest of the Little Rock Nine and Daisy Bates in 1958. In 1997, Elizabeth Eckford shared the Father Joseph Blitz Award, presented by the National Conference for Community and Justice, with Hazel Bryan. And during the Reconciliation Rally of 1997, the two former adversaries made speeches together. In 1999, President Bill Clinton presented the nation's highest civilian award, the Congressional Gold Medal, to the members of the Little Rock Nine. There's so much more to Elizabeth's life than what I've discussed during this podcast, but I wanted to basically bring her up because I think her experiences are so reflective of that strong resistance that I mentioned in the last podcast, to progress, into integration, into equality within the races. You can imagine how angry you can see. You look at the pictures and you can see how angry these people were at children for trying to go to school. And Elizabeth didn't really have a choice in the matter. It's not like she was like, I want to be this pioneer for integration. She just wanted to take better classes. She wanted to get a better education. And to see the resistance to that, I mean, imagine how, if people will resist Black kids going to school, imagine how hard they resisted the first Black owner of a bank. Imagine how hard they resisted Black ownership and Black people moving into neighborhoods and Black people advancing themselves in any type of way, because we all know that the first step, if you really want to grow, is education. So if white people could resist Black people getting an education, Black kids getting an education in such a violent way, imagine all the other ways in which they resisted our progress and our growth. These are things I just want you to think about. It's Black History Month, and we've come a long way, but I want you guys to see the flip side of that progress. And I want you guys to take note of the ways in which the progress was obstructed. So yeah, thank you guys for listening to the Breeze podcast. If you want to read more about Elizabeth or any of the Black history icons that I mentioned in this podcast, you can go to my website at www.findthebreeze.com. Thank you guys again for staying tuned. We're going to have another podcast coming out to you really, really soon. I'm not gonna give any dates because I'm definitely not gonna follow through with that shit. But I definitely will guarantee we'll have something coming out in the next couple of days. So thank you guys so much for the support and enjoy the rest of your Monday.